Hi, my name is Chris,
My name's Gary,
and welcome to Nerd Banter.
the show about everything nerd.
Gary, we have a guest or a new host for us. Can you introduce who this gentleman is?
This is Joey Smith, and I think everybody on the Nerd Banter site should know him very well. So we're just going to have a quick chat about the upcoming Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, Chris, I believe you have a couple of things to go through.
Yeah, so Joey, listen, thanks a million again for joining us. What can you tell us a quick thing about yourself? Or
Yeah, sure. I suppose they know me on the Nerd Banter page for pumping Snyder out and pumping Man of Steel or BVS. And then, I've been a member of Nerd Banter for about 3.5 years now, so an admin there as well at the moment. So, just love my superhero movies, preschool teacher by trade. I'm looking forward to digging into really chatting about what Zack Snyder has given us and what's coming up in the next week.
I did not know that. Like the future of our youth is in your hands.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. A lot of people get shocked when I tell them what I do for a living.
No better man to pump them full of that sounds really wrong. Yeah, no.
Nerd. Pump them full of nerd stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So the things that we're going to be talking about today is, especially with the new Justice League, the Snyder Cut coming out, or next week. What date is it coming out?
This Thursday, 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of go over and kind of summarize, say, the Man of Steel film, Batman versus Superman. And if we get a chance, we're going to also talk about what we're looking forward to this new cut coming out with Zack Snyder. Guy, I'm just going to go quickly. I'm going to start with you. We'll start off with Man of Steel. Okay, so what did you like about it, and what did you didn't like about it?
I'll probably start with what I didn't like about it. What I didn't like about it was going back to the original, like the Donner Superman movies. I remember distinctly leaving the cinema and not wanting to be Superman by the end of the movie. Whereas I remember the Donner movies, like by the end of it, you're coming out. I know I was only a kid when I saw them, but like I was coming out of it like wanting to be Superman because all he did was good. Whereas in the Zack Snyder Superman, it's more like he looks like he's in pain a lot of the time when he's supposed to be like the symbol of hope for people. But I can understand that from like a modern point of view. Like the Donner movies are based around the Superman that was around from 1938. Like he was a good guy, you know what I mean? He was the goody two shoes. He was the kind of symbol for everybody, whereas that doesn't really sit in kind of modern society. So it is more realistic. Like if Superman did arrive on this planet, he would be dealing with the things that Zack Snyder like goes over in like fear of being taken in and experimented on, and like people's ideas of him would be very different depending on their viewpoint. Like, not to jump ahead, but like that's one of the things I love about the start of Batman versus Superman, is that we see the destruction from the point of view of Bruce Wayne and the people that are on the ground, whereas there's not as much of that in Man of Steel. It's more just about it's more about the destruction and the fight that's happening. I love Henry Cavill. I think he's brilliant as Superman. I think he just like it in scenes you can see that the internal struggle that is happening. You know what I mean? It's not like washed over at all. You can see it in his facial expressions and things, that like what is happening to him is affecting him. And I love the fact that it starts on Krypton. Like we never really got to see Krypton as much. Like we got to see a little bit of his father in the original ones, but we never really see Krypton. So it's good for people that know a little bit about Superman but don't really understand the whole like he's an alien where he comes from thing. We get to understand that like he is the last one, or the last one of his kind. I'd say another, I don't know if it's nitpicking, but one of the things I always found
It's nitpicking. Yeah.
Yeah, it is nitpicking.
I don't know if it's
literally the
it's
point of
definitely
the
nitpicking. Go on.
The kind of overly religious side of it, I thought was very on the nose.
Yeah, the whole Jesus pose kind of thing coming out of the spaceship, and that.
The literal scene in the church where he's framed against a with a background of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a common theme through all of Snyder's movies as well, though. It's common that he would,
No, I can understand that, but I always felt that should have been a scene where, like, he's conflicted. I always thought that should have been a scene where he's at his father's graveside and he's speaking to the grave, and maybe a priest is at the grave and comes and speaks to him, but just that one scene where he goes into a church was a bit like it's kind of excluding all other religions as well. So that was a thing that Superman didn't do, because like
that scene's actually ripped from a comic. It comes directly from a comic.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know.
Which took me by surprise as well.
Yeah.
Because I can understand where you're coming from, and then I've seen somebody sharing a post with ripped directly from one of the comics where he goes in and chats to a priest about his humanity, I suppose.
Yeah.
About so that is linked, and what it means to be Superman. So that is in one of the comics.
That's really odd. It's just the fact that the guys that actually created him were Jewish. I always assumed they kind of left the whole religion thing out. But if that makes me feel a lot better about that scene.
That's what Joey's here for.
Yeah.
Joey, what did you really like? Kind of to summarize, what did you like? What was good and what was kind of bad for you for Man of Steel?
Okay, so people have me down as a bit of a Snyder nerd, you know what I mean? Like, I only came across Zack Snyder because of Man of Steel. I watched 300, all of them. I didn't realize it was Snyder. So I'm a huge Superman fan. So I went into this not really knowing what to expect. I loved Superman Returns as a movie. I thought it was a directed love letter to what Donner did, but that didn't work. They put that out to us in 2006, and it bombed. People did not respond to that type of stuff. Found it boring, too cheesy, too corny. Where I thought was a really lovely movie that tied into the first two Superman movies. So I think Snyder tried to do something completely different. And I will go on record and I say I think Man of Steel is an absolute masterpiece. I think it's without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite Superman movie. Because it does a little bit what Nolan did with Batman. It puts Superman into the real world. It makes us think what would happen if Superman arrives here today. We'd lose our mind, we wouldn't accept it whatsoever. And he captures that pain really, really well throughout the movie. And I think it's important to realize that this was a 5-movie arc. This was meant to be spread out over 5 movies, and to Superman becoming the Boy Scout Superman, which Snyder pretty much put that out from the very start. This is going to be a long process. We're going to watch Superman become Superman rather than, hey, he's a cheesy Boy Scout from Kansas, happy and all that. Like, that's just not realistic. And what I loved about Man of Steel was they gave us that really sense of being conflicted, not knowing what to do with his power, not knowing what his purpose was, and watching the struggle of what it's like to become Superman. I think Man of Steel captures that really, really well. And I love the fact that the first day we see him become Superman, Zod appears, Zod is the ultimate nemesis in the DC universe. I mean, Zod and he's going toe to toe with him, and Superman's just winging it, and he's not like, we're not seeing him with his chest puffed out or pulling cats from trees. We're just seeing somebody trying his best to be Superman, just get by, And I think Man of Steel captures that really, really well. The last hour would be a little bit of my nitpick, and it just gets a little bit too heavy on the CGI. But right up to that point, I think it's an amazing story that's told really, really well. I can understand that, like, the casual fan coming in, or the Marvel fan coming in, who likes popcorny movies and likes things to be, moving at a really flow with a couple of jokes thrown in. That's not there in Man of Steel. This, I really think it's designed for the nerd, for the Superman nerd that really wants to get into the nitty gritty of a character. I think Snyder does that well.
Yeah.
It's dark, you know, there's a lot of shading and a lot of content, like, you know, it's heights where it's very gray and very dull. I completely understand where people are coming from that point, but I just love the fact that it's completely different to what we've seen Superman do before.
Yeah.
I
think we wouldn't have had Superman or Man of Steel if it wasn't for Nolan's Batman.
100%, yeah.
I think it is a direct kind of causation and result because of it. Like, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, for me, very quickly was I liked the kind of the humanity that was kind of thrown into it. His very genuine trouble of, you know, any kind of adolescent who's just after losing their father, struggling to find their personal identity, which so like it's every kind of coming of age story kind of thing. It's not just about it's not about just Superman. It's about Clark kind of finding who he is in the world that's around him and what his place is and how he kind of fits into it, and still not knowing everything by the end of it, but like you said, completely winging it. I thought it had a lot of heart, to be honest with you, and especially like there was a lot of touching moments between, you know, a lot of people don't like the kind of the relationship, or you know how Clark's dad passed away, and it's like, oh, he's trying to save the dog, and it was like, yeah, you know, it served a story purpose and then it was paid off later on kind of thing, you know. I didn't mind that too much, how the father kind of was taken away by that tornado. I thought it was a bit, you know, it was just served the story rather than actually kind of feeling it, like, you know.
Which is harsh. It's harshly criticized that moment as well, I believe. I think like a lot of people would lock onto that as you know, that's not our Superman, that's not how Jonathan Kent dies. But it was a teachable moment, I suppose, for
completely.
Superman. Yeah,
it served the story rather than the over kind of like, even like obviously Clark, or was it John is his name?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, John like dies of a heart attack in the comics and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more heroic trying to save his dog.
Yeah, and he's trying to, and when Superman can clearly run in and guess, but he's trying to say, like, I am willing to die for you to be ready to present yourself to the world. And you know, there's little rumors leaking out about that tornado being an actual, I can't remember the superhero's name. Is it Captain Tornado?
Hat on. No.
Oh, that's going to link to being an actual superhero that caused that tornado, all that kind of stuff. There's little theories floating around. But I love the fact that John Kent let himself die so Superman could not expose himself when he wasn't ready to expose himself.
Again, even with that as well, like what else was I enjoyed? I thought the action scenes, especially in the first one, kind of Zod kind of lands, and especially in the town scene, like it's so visceral. It is so visceral, and the mixture between use of practical effects and then CGI was quite good. To be honest with you, it is heavy on the CGI, but you could feel every punch, you could feel every impact, and it really and you never seen this before in a superhero film. Like there were shockwaves emanating from every single hit, every single punch, and it's visceral. Especially if you're watching it in the cinema, if you're watching it with a decent enough system, you're like going, "Wow, these guys are really going toe to toe," and you can feel it in your chest, like complete
pure power, and that's what it should be, you know. And that was again another thing that has been criticized, that they were fighting in civilian land and civilians were dying, but this is going to happen, you know. They come down and it was just, as you said, you could feel every explosion. Particularly when he flies and catches his mom, when Zod has his mom, and he's punching him while he's flying, like you can feel those digs, you know. And you just never seen Superman do this before, and that's what I really enjoy. You get to see that kind of brutal side of Superman, which he could snap at any moment, and which a lot of people don't want to see. I suppose they want to see the Boy Scout. And
the criticisms then is similar to what kind of towards the end. It is a bit egregious, if that's even the word, the amount of destruction, because when you like, obviously you set the film, the film is set up in a kind of like this is kind of like close to our reality, like you can relate to this, and this is what would happen in our world if this was to happen, and you're going, wow, that would probably be about 500,000 people dead at the end of it, like easy. The level of destruction in the middle of Metropolis, leveling about 10, 20 city blocks would be absolutely, and you kind of go, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, because for a fact, and especially, harken back and say, 9/11, that when something that even it was just one or two buildings that fell down, how devastating that was to the in in reality. And you kind of go, wow, this is kind of multiplied by like 300. So it's very kind of like it made me feel very, very uncomfortable, like watching for the first time, like.
And that's what I think. I enjoyed the fact that they did that. Whereas when you look at Avengers, when they're attacking New York in the first Avengers, you don't get that sense of everybody's in danger here. You can see them directing people to safety, and you can see, they mention directing people to safety, and that's put in there to keep the PG-12 rating, whatever it is that they need. Whereas the Man of Steel, it's just like if this happened this is what's going to come of it. People are going to die. And you can, when Zod and Superman are going through the buildings, you can feel them going through them buildings.
Yeah,
I just love the brutality of it. I really are.
Yeah, I'm too, I still absolutely am all for the kind of the brutality on it, but Jesus, yeah, I do think it was just about 20 buildings too many.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Gary, what do you think?
Like about the way that the action is shot, about how brutal it is, and that there's shockwaves and stuff like that. It'd be very difficult to do a scene like that in like an empty space. You know what I mean? Like you need to see.
You wouldn't catch that moment.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You wouldn't feel that it has as much impact if they're not literally getting thrown through buildings and there's explosions going on and things like that. Like if they're just punching each other in the face, you're not really going to get that. Like, so I'm the same. I completely think that it goes on a little bit too long, but I also think that it needed to be in there to show, because it's going back to the whole, like, this is Superman in the real world. This is what would happen. Like, Zod wouldn't decide to have this fight in a field in the middle of Kansas. He wants Superman to see that he means this is the end of your world. Like
even towards the end of it, he was saying, I want to cause as much pain to you as possible, no matter what. And he gives him that kind of choice at the end where he doesn't have a choice but to kind of end Zod, like, and it's very kind of like, I love that. I again, people say, oh, Superman doesn't kill. And it's like, well, he has killed in the comics, and he is literally being put up against the wall. And I will. He has to protect his people, essentially.
We're talking about the neck snap, are we?
The neck snap, yeah.
Oh,
I love it.
Which it's hard watching Superman snap somebody's neck, right? That's not something that's the norm for any of us. And I was not expecting it when I watched it. Which what caught me was the pain that Superman let out, that cry he let out afterwards. It wasn't when in Richard Donner's version too, where he picks up Zod and he throws him into an ice crystal, and has this, I just, threw him up, where we don't see that he's actually not dead for 20 years until that cut came out. So we're just expected to believe Zod has just been thrown into an abyss, and Superman's, happy out about it.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can feel that, like, you can feel that decision he's had to, like, Zod was lasering a family, Superman, it was out of Superman's hand, and it's just, like that scream, just so I remember seeing it in the cinema, and it just sent chills down me, so that, because you can really feel it.
For me, it was the realization, the last of his kind. Like, he was now the last of his kind, and he made, through events that were kind of out of his control, he was the last person to kind of end that or make that decision. And that, for me, that's where I feel that scream comes from, because it is the realization of he is the last of his kind, and there's only after discovering about where he's from and the people, and, do you know what I mean, then being put into this impossible situation. Like, do you know what I mean? I love that scream at the end. Like, it's so visceral.
Absolutely. I think they've absolutely nailed the character of Zod. Like, from the very start, when we see him in Krypton, you can see that he was a very honorable, like, he was literally born to be a general, literally born to lead the army, and he was doing his best, doing what's best for Krypton. And the dialogue between himself and Russell Crowe was fantastic. I remember coming and saying, I'd love to see a prequel with the two lads. I'd love to see Krypton, an hour and a half movie, because it was amazing. And then you see Zod turning into, as it goes on, and when Krypton is taken away from, when he realizes that all is lost, he snaps, and he becomes an app. He literally says, as you said, I'm going to cause you so much pain, I'm going to rip every human down. And he becomes Zod, Whereas in Richard Donner's version of Zod, which I absolutely love Donner, right? That's what made me fall in love with Superman. he's very camp, you know. It's very like, you know, it's very like, ooh, you know, camp, and you know, V-neck, you know.
It's very much of the time.
Absolutely, you know. And
Yes.
then like when you compare the battles in the city, you know, when Superman's been thrown into a truck, it's like a tin can folding up, whereas which was great for the time. You know, this is something you've never seen, and it's mind blowing. Whereas we're now in a time where we can not literally knock buildings to the ground. And I think we need to weigh that up when we're assessing. Like, well, I always hear not my Superman, not and all this kind of crack, but you need to weigh up the two different times of and eras when these two movies came out.
Well, as you were saying, the fact that it was supposed to be a 5-movie
arc, yeah.
You can understand. Like, I know I'm going back on myself a little bit by kind of by saying that, but you can see that they couldn't have just started off with Superman being like that. Like that would have been like, regardless of what criticisms people have about the movie, they couldn't have started off with Superman being the Donner Superman, or people would have gone, they're just copying and pasting. Like, also, like there are elements of the film that make you feel that kind of Donnerish kind of part. Well, like the scene where like chills down my spine anytime I think of that scene where he's like leaping from mountain to mountain and just stops and he just puts his fist to the ground and then he's gone.
You're breaking up on us there a little bit.
That is just like, that is
Oh, sorry, Gary, you're just breaking up there a little bit. Your quality.
I think you were talking about leading into Superman's first flight, Gary, was it? And when Superman flies for the first time, like that is,
he starts off and he's jumping from mountain to mountain, and then he just stops, and you can see him. He looks up into the sky, he puts the fist to the ground, and then he's gone.
I
love
you can
that. See like the joy in his face as he's flying around, knowing that like now he can, like, he's not limited to like distance as to what he can do for the world. Now that he knows that he can just zoom anywhere he needs to, he can help so many more people, and you can see that like joy in his face.
I think that was the first breadcrumb of having a sense of this Superman. You know, that like I showed that I have a 2-year-old, and you know, I'm pumping Superman and Batman all these onto him, and I showed him the flight sequence, and he was like, "Whoa!" You know, and he had his Superman. So it was resonating with a 2-year-old. You know, that.
But even with like Henry Cavill, and I think that is this is a completely testament to him as an actor. He gave out this kind of joyful, childlike glee. You're going, "Oh my God, this is awesome!" And then you were like, "Oh my!" The audience mirrors that kind of reaction, going, "Oh yes, this is cool."
And everyone believed, you know, like, this is going to become. We were going to see the Superman, you know, and then Zod arrives, and then. He's like, "Oh my God, I brought an alien race to the planet. I've got to deal with this. They're literally calling me out, or they're going to destroy the planet in 24 hours. And then all that hope gets sucked out of him. And now he has to deal with Zod. Yeah. And I love that they just flipped that on his head. I loved it. Like, I was really expecting it to go, you know, pulling cats out of trees and all that kind of stuff when I see him fly. But I love the fact that he just pulled that hope out of him, and he had to deal with a world-ending event. And we were going to see Superman. You know, we were like, the rumors was you're going to see Superman work alongside Darkseid. You know, he was going to get corrupted. You know, like Lois was going to be killed. We were going to see, and then all the way coming up to Superman becoming Superman. I don't know how it would have been. It just would have been amazing to see that kind of play out.
So bad, I would say, for another one to kind of criticize. And I suppose this is probably going to go into casting. Actually, no, it's a little bit of the writing was a bit ham-fisted, especially with the Lois Lane character. I don't think I think Lois Lane is Amy Adams. I think some of the lines is like, "Oh, I'm a Pulitzer Prize winner," and it's like, "Oh God!" It's not the fact that she's saying it; it's the fact that it's so ham-fisted, and it doesn't like. Okay, we know the character anyway of Lois Lane. Like, you know, I was hoping for something a little bit. She seems very just on the nose, and it just didn't for me. It just didn't really click for Lois Lane. I think she's
much better than the Lois Lane from Superman Returns, though.
Oh, completely. Oh God, yeah. Like,
but I understand. Like, Lois Lane as a character, I wouldn't be a fan of. To be perfectly honest, I always, like, even through the comics, she'll be very similar. It'd be very hard arse, around the nose with what she's saying,
I think if it's done right, I think you can actually do justice to that. But I think it was just let down. There was certain points you just go and you just fist slap or slap your face going, oh, come on. Like that.
Do you think it was the writing, or do you think it was
writing?
The actress?
No. I think Amy Adams is a very good actress, to be honest with you. But I think it's just very much Zack Snyder and the script, and then a mixture between Amy, and it just kind of falling through the cracks a little bit. And some of the tonal hits from Lois Lane just didn't really hit. I think she was a bit like, in some it was brilliant, and then some it was just like, it kind of fell and hit the mark.
I think they get her a lot better in Batman versus Superman. I think her character is a lot better in Batman versus Superman. In the Justice League, whatever people are calling it, it's appalling. It's literally I'm horny. So we won't get into that anyway. It's appalling. They've turned her into like a joke. Whereas I can understand where you come from Man of Steel. And Batman versus Superman, I thought she was excellent in Batman versus Superman.
Gary, what would you change then going forward? If you could change anything, what would you change?
What would I change?
Warner Brothers having rights over Superman.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't change a hell of a lot. I think the casting is brilliant. Even the actor, I don't even know who he is, but the actor that played Superman when he was a kid was brilliant.
The young lad. That scene with him and his dad.
We'll go into that. We'll go into that's one of the points, and that's a nice little segue. We'll go into casting. Gary, what continue on that. What do you think the casting for the film was?
No, I honestly think the casting is top. Like having Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent.
Perfect.
Couldn't have anybody better than that. I can't remember the actress's name who played Martha.
Diane Keaton, I think, is it Diane?
Yeah. Like she's a brilliant actress anyway.
Yeah. So
to get actors of that caliber to play what is essentially quite a small role, but a very important role, is perfect.
Might agree.
Henry Cavill, I've already said, I think he's brilliant as Superman. He embodies Superman. Michael Shannon as Zod, couldn't have got a better actor to play Zod. He is pure evil. But he's also pure evil
But pure evil where you kind of go, I get him. You're kind of going, exactly. I get him. Yeah.
He's been genetically made to be this kind of person, and when all that is taken away from him, like he does what anyone else would do. He snaps and focuses his rage on this one person and decides, right, I'm going to not only save my people, but at the same time, it's a nice little extra bonus that I also get to murder Kal-El.
Well, he does tell Jor-El he's going to hunt him down and kill him. And Russell Crowe's casting as Jor-El was unbelievable as well. Even with the two lads are having the fist fight in Krypton, without any of these super being powers, you can just feel that it's proper.
It's very kind of coordinated. It's very impactful. It's very
trained, and it's you can see that it's not just a scrap. It's actual two lads that know how to fight.
Zod even says it during the movie. I've trained my whole life for this. What have you done? You were raised on a farm, and and it's just like, oh my god, this is so good. This is brilliant, and it really I really enjoyed that. The script on those points, those really those meaningful points were perfect because again, it's all about impact and all about kind of, there's great kind of moments that were set up at the earlier on during the film, and then it really does pay off in those kind of just with the dialogue. And Michael Shannon, I have to say, he's
top actor though. Everything he does is brilliant. He's top actor.
Absolutely.
I think the cast comes into question a little bit, a good bit in Batman versus Superman, which I'm sure we can talk about in a bit. And I think they got the casting spot on for Man of Steel. Even with the general, that's linking up to being Martian Manhunter in Justice League, So
we'll kind of finish off then on special effects. Gary, what was your kind of take on the special effects? Were you happy enough with it? Has it aged well? It's not a new film.
I think I watched it on a 4K, it was a Blu-ray, but I watched it on a 4K TV, and I was very hard pressed to kind of spot the CGI moments. You know what I mean? I knew obviously what was CGI, but at the same time, I was like, hold on, was that done with wires or was that done with, like, especially in the fight in Smallville, when he's getting pounded like into the ground and he's getting thrown all over the place. Like, it happens so fast. It's shot really, really well that it happens so fast, which it would, because they're super fast beings, that you don't really get a chance to register if it is a bad CGI shot or not.
There's an excellent behind the scenes clip of that, actually. It shows them how to do it. It's all done with wires.
Really?
So yeah, it's amazing. So it's like Henry Cavill on a mash, and and they're pulling them. Yeah, it's I would have been taught the same before I looked at CGI. You know the bit where he flies and he grabs his cape and she pulls him back in. That's all done with wires and stuff. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So
wow,
which is brilliant to watch.
Yeah. That was great points. Joey, what do you think the CGI then?
As I said, I think it went a little bit nuts, because the whole first 2/3 of the movie, CGI is very little. It's all done around character building and around Superman dealing with becoming Superman. The shot behind it with him flying over, looking at the army when he's first introduced to the world, I think it's fantastic. But then when you get to the Metropolis bit, it kind of blows your mind a little bit. It's a little bit heavy. And there's a lot of explosions, but I suppose that's what you want. And that's just me nitpicking. As I said, I think this movie is an absolute masterpiece. I think it's in my top 3 movies of all time as well. I absolutely love it. So I would struggle to kind of, if I was putting it on something, it would be the CGI at the end. I have a lot more criticisms of BVS, but for this, it would be, it would have been a little bit of overkill on the CGI coming towards the end.
So taking on that point, let's talk about Batman versus Superman then.
Okay. So, have you got anything to say about the CGI, Chris?
Again, it kind of incorporates into, like, I'm just going to mirror everything from what Joey was saying and you were saying. It is a little bit heavy, but the action happens that quickly, and it's not, you know what I mean? It's you kind of, your brain isn't able to catch up with kind of nitpicking anything. I loved it, to be honest with you. Like, the CGI was fantastic. It suited it. It served its purpose. Listen, at the end of the day, it's Zack Snyder, and he is kind of, that's his thing. He loves just slapping a sticker of CGI on everything, and he's one of the best out there. He did Zucker Punch as well, didn't he?
That's the only movie of Zack Snyder's I can't stand. So
and then you got 300, which is a masterpiece as well. Like, it's really good.
Dawn of the Dead was one of his early ones, which is fantastic as well.
Dawn of the Dead is brilliant, and it's written by Sean Gunn, or not? Sorry, James Gunn as well.
Oh, wow!
It's a nice little collaboration between But brilliant.
So like, if there was anyone who's going to do, like, a heavy CGI film, I'd be it's like, he's got more experience than most people in the business at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? And he set the benchmarks really, really high throughout the years. So it served the story, to be honest with you. Whether or not I agreed with certain stuff, but that was it. Like,
and I'm very interested. I'm sure whoever watches this, and then the lads who would be heavy critical of Zack Snyder or Man of Steel, to give us good, strong points is what it is that they don't like, rather than just saying attack Snyder or Martha. They're the two things. That is all we can get.
You're always going to get that anyway.
Yeah.
So let's go on to Batman versus Superman. I'll go on to Gary. Gary, what did you like about the film? What did you dislike about the film?
I have to say, I watched the ultimate cut. I think it gives you a little bit more Clark Kent and Amy Adams kind of relationship. So I prefer watching that version. I love it though. I think it's just great fun. It's dark. Like, I've never seen Batman
really dark
like that. I've never seen, well, apart from reading the comics, the Dark Knight Returns and all that, I'd never seen Batman. I'd never noticed that Batman killed people. It's only after watching it that I've rewatched, like, the 89 Batman and Batman Returns.
There's a pattern of behavior here.
In those movies as well.
Nothing to do with dropping a train off, in Batman Returns, he knocks a train of men off, it's directly people that people have the issue with.
He shoots people in Batman Returns, but for some reason, that was the thing that people focused on for BVS. But yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. It's another movie where the characters kind of come to the forefront of the movie. Like, it is a big action movie, but it's more about, like, it's intricate. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took me a second watch before I was able to figure out the fact that, like, Lex Luthor was running the show from the get-go. Like, he was literally controlling everything that happens throughout the entire movie. And once I realized that, I got a hell of a lot more out of that actor's kind of
interpretation
of Lex.
You kind of respected the character a little bit more rather than.
I remember coming away the first time thinking he was just annoying. But then when you realize that he's literally been running, like, controlling these two characters from the very beginning, and that the persona he puts on is a persona. Yeah, that once that clicked with me, I've enjoyed every time I've watched that movie, and I've watched it several times.
Criticisms then?
Criticisms.
Martha.
What'd
you say that name?
I have a point on that.
I think, if we're gonna go straight into Marthagate, the whole Martha scene could have been dealt with a little bit better. I kind of came away from the first time seeing it going, what the hell? But then after rewatching it, I was like, okay, so in the couple of seconds that Lois says it's his mother's name and Batman kind of stands back, he's the world's greatest detective. He's figuring things out in his head, and he's going, okay, so, like, he's literally figuring out the plot of the movie in his head in those couple of seconds. And once he does, he's on Team Superman. They could have elaborated on that a little bit more for the general audience, I thought. Like, they could have had him even just say a line, say where, like, he didn't realize that he had, like, Superman had an actual Earth family.
Oh, like, my God, I'm so sorry. My bad.
Oh, yeah, sorry for beating you within an inch of your life.
Yes, there is.
You know what I mean, though?
There is something missing there from that scene, absolutely.
And if you watch the movie again, that's something missing is literally in the opening sequence of the movie. It's Martha is literally the last thing Jonathan Wayne says. So that's the last thing. The last thing Bruce Wayne hears is him saying, Martha. You know, and I agree with the criticism of Martha. I get on, absolutely can be handled better. But it's the one thing that they lock onto, you know, of a 2.5 hour movie. And it's kind of like a post-traumatic stress thing, you know, it takes something to knock you out of it, right? Now, and if we're being super critical, Endgame did it with Captain America and Bucky, you know, and after this, so when they're fighting and Captain America says Bucky's alive, the other Captain America snaps out of it, you know, and takes him in a back. So, but you never heard anything about that. We've never heard Bucky coming from anybody. So it's just, I think it's a scene that should have been explained better. Absolutely.
Anything else, Gary?
Doomsday. Doomsday looked like a troll from the Lord of the Rings. Whereas I like they literally go into the whole, okay, the more we hit him, the tougher he gets. They should have done a little bit more with that. He should have been the guy with bones coming out of everywhere by the end of that fight. They just didn't do enough with.
Didn't do it justice at all. Even though it's not the original Doomsday.
We're planning on reintroducing Doomsday again later on down the line, and they didn't want to jump the shark. But I just think Doomsday should have been more threatening.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, particularly with seeing the Trinity for the first time. You know, particularly with seeing Batman and Wonder Woman come together for the first time, and he looked like the troll from Harry Potter.
Dobby's a good elf.
You know, I would fully agree with that. That's my own.
Joy, what did you enjoy and what did you not enjoy about this?
So I love BVS, but I've a lot. When I watched it back, I watched the Unlimited edition as well myself, and I read a great quote. It's a story of Batman forgetting to be Batman and Superman not yet being Superman. And they literally, like Alfred and Batman literally address the fact that Batman is becoming brutal and he's becoming, you know, he's marking people. Like they say that this is the second person you've marked, you know, and it's kind of telling us that story that Batman's lost himself.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's a Batman that's fought in Gotham for 20 years. We don't see all of the don't see all of the backstory, but we see that older Batman who has fought in Gotham for 20 years. And I think it's like, it kind of gives us a Batman that's afraid. When he sees Superman and Zod, he realizes that there's a bigger universe out there. There's bigger threats than the Penguin or, you know, Bane or whatever it is that he's been fighting in Gotham. So this is beyond his reach, and his gut reaction is to, you know, it snaps him, you know, literally. And they address that in the movie, that Batman snaps. And I know the criticism of Batman is that's not my Batman. Batman doesn't kill. But I think that's the point of his Batman in the movie. And that was his arc. By the end of Batman versus Superman, he realizes that, you know, this was wrong. You know, I was on a wrong path, and it took the sacrifice of Superman to bring me back, leading into Justice League. And I really enjoyed that element of it. What I didn't like about it was the casting of Lex. I thought it was absolutely horrendous. I think if we had a more solid actor, Matthew McConaughey, someone that's, you know, can play the president type of politician Lex, I think that story would have worked so much better than the bumbling kind of teenager. And Jesse Eisenberg's just not a good actor. You know, I don't like him at all. I think he plays the same character in every movie that he does, and he just didn't bring Lex. Like, Lex Luthor should be like, you know, Lex Luthor, you know, understand he's a mastermind, he's a genius, you know, he can put it, he's literally manipulated Batman and Superman to go against each other, whereas I don't think that's believable in this movie at all with Jesse Eisenberg behind the wheel.
Mark Zuckerberg kind of
yeah, it's just, you know, it's just not time. And I get that it comes from a comic, and I get that there's that version of Lex in the comics, but I think that's a huge criticism I'd have of Snyder, is casting him rather than casting an established, you know, confident, you know, the politician Lex Luthor with the bald head, you know, the whole works, not giving us let's just go for it with Lex, to believe that he's capable of putting Batman, who is, you know, the world's greatest detective, you know, and a very intelligent man, and Superman to go against each other. And I think that was, if they had have done that, I don't think the movie would have got as heavily criticized as it did.
Everyone's kind of sitting back going, well, we really enjoyed Man of Steel, so we're going to give it the benefit of doubt. And when you actually watch the film, it's very, I'll get into my points on that, but yeah, I agree with Joey 100%.
No, I loved it. I think they handled the death of Superman really well. Doomsday, I just felt it could have been, they should have just went with full Doomsday, you know, the spikes and the beard and the muscles, you know, and and I know we were getting to see him become Doomsday every time that you know, he got hit or got something chopped off or was hit with the nuke. I get that, but I just don't think that was done. It just looked hammy, to be perfectly honest. And we got some great shots in between of Batman, you know, from the comics, you know, and Wonder Woman and Super. There just wasn't enough team up between the three of them for me to, you know, which I think Avengers did brilliantly. You know, when they got their characters together, you know, the team up was excellent. Whereas I think they missed that beat with Batman versus Superman, where it's the first time we've ever seen a Trinity on screen together. It should have been mind blowing, but it wasn't. You know, and that would be my biggest criticism of the movie.
For me, again, this, like, to see Batman again and a different version of it, more comic booky than kind of Christopher Nolan's. You know, and again, I love the fact that you had that kind of unknown history. You know, he was battle weary. He had fought a lot of fights, even, you know, the hinting at he lost Robin as well to the Joker. You know, paid a lot of kind of respect to a lot of material there that we weren't seeing. But as a comic book fan, and especially of Batman, you could really feel it's like, okay, this guy's been doing this for a while, like, you know. And I love, again, a lot of some of the action points, especially with regards to Batman, how visceral it was, and how utterly violent this man was, who literally turned his body into like the peak physical condition for as much as a human being can, and then just annihilate fellas around him without absolute remorse. And again, you're definitely, again, echoing what Joey was saying, is you are seeing him fall apart at the edges a little bit and lose the run of himself. And it is down to the trauma of him witnessing all that death and destruction at the start of the film. I love the way that the two films are tied into each other, and it is very organic. because there's something that's happened, and then here's the effect. You cannot have one without the other. You know, and how does the world deal with? And it is a mixed reaction, because there's, like, you're talking about Superman, and he is a weapon of mass destruction. He could literally destroy the whole planet if he wanted to, and having that level of power, and trusting that level of power, he played a lot of like the worries and stuff with, especially with the politicians and the hearings and stuff. And it's like, how can we trust you after, you know, what's happened? Like, can we trust you? And, you know, it's a lot of honest questions, and I love that play with it. Action scenes wise, yeah, great. I didn't, for the first half of the kind of the fight between Batman and Superman, and which led up to the Martha scene, I said majority of it was quite visceral, quite enjoyable. 10 out of 10. I'm happy enough with that. I wish it was a little bit more better lit. It's really, really dark, and you're missing out on huge detail. I hate, ever since Iron Man 2, I hate supervillain fights at nighttime, because they deliberately do it to hide, you know what I mean? Hide stuff. And I'm just like, just even, you know, brighten it up a little bit so we can see the action happening. And it was a little bit too dark. That's just, you know.
And they did that in what I believe to be the greatest on-screen Batman fight sequence of all time, in the warehouse. That warehouse scene is just unbelievable. It's Batman, you know.
It is.
He's not wooden, you know, and he's just brutal, and he's calculated, and he's flinging lads. Now, I know people have, I remember chatting with Keane, and he was like, oh, you hit him with a box, you know. I was like, it's Batman, you know. I mean, this is what Batman does, you know. I mean, like, people are like, oh, he kills them, but all right, maybe he may have killed him, but he left him paralyzed, you know, so it's all right if he's paralyzed, but like, it's just that bad, but just where he comes through the wall, you know, and he jumps through the ceiling, and it just felt like, whereas I love Nolan's Batman, don't get me wrong, but I never got that sense of from Nolan's Batman that
Nolan's Batman was a ninja.
This
guy is a tank. This guy is, you know,
he's Batman. You know,
he's Batman. He's 1980s kind of, you know, Frank Miller Batman.
He's Frank Miller Batman.
Yeah, and I think Affleck just gets him perfectly. He looks the part. And I think the fact that Affleck is a broken man as well himself at times, you know, really played into the fact of that character.
Like mentally unfit.
Absolutely,
he's damaged. Yeah, absolutely.
Affleck has said as well that he's a fan of the Arkham games.
Yeah, and that's what him and your man Joe, was it Joe, the guy that's playing Deathstroke?
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, they agreed that that's what the Batman movie was going to be. It was going to be them two coming together from the Arkham games. Yeah. And that just would have been nerdgasm everywhere, lads. Like, that game is unbelievable.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, and we'll get it, I don't know. But he is coming back as Batman in The Flash, I suppose. So
yeah. With regards to then kind of story points and stuff like that, I like, again, I am, a lot of the story arcs kind of obviously were set up from the first film, which I like, because there's a feeling of continuity. And, you know, again, the worst thing about that film is Lex Luthor. I think
I agree.
It was such a massive disappointment and such a missed opportunity. I was thinking of casting, and there's so many amazing actors out there in their 40s. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, like Lex Luthor, is around the same age. Like, he's the same age as kind of Superman. They, like in some comics, they kind of grew up together, like, you know. And so you're talking like about a dude who's like 35, 36, who a politician, but a big dude as well. So someone, like, once he puts, like, he has his own suit to fight against Superman. Once he puts that on, he's match for match against Superman. Like, again, you could not see Jesse kind of putting on a little skinny suit and going, fight me. You know, it's I made this suit out of Bitcoins. You know, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
agree. I think it was the worst choice that Snyder made. Like, even if they got to the point where they get to Lex Luthor's suit, where he comes in and he fights with the Justice League, which I think is what we're going to see in this Justice League. you're not going to believe Jesse Eisenberg doing that. You know,
No,
I think he's about 2 foot. You know, he's just not believable as
Like looking
and
up
just
at
wasn't
these two.
believable as Lex Luthor for me. Maybe he was believable from the comic, which I've never read. I think it's called Brightburn. Like maybe he's believable from that, but no, give me
He's
my
not
Lex.
my Lex Luthor.
No, and that, I know people say he's not my Superman and all this kind of, but he's not my. Give us a Lex Luthor that's just going that you're going to go. He's a crafty man. Like he's crafty. He's vicious, you know. Like Kevin Spacey got him brilliantly in Superman. I think he did. Like with Gene Hackman, he tapped into Gene Hackman really well. But I think he got him really well.
I knew that name was going to pop up sometime or another.
Yeah, I think he did it really well compared to what we got in the Donner version.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
So we got a Superman we got a Lex that's mental. You know, that's a genius, but he's mental. You don't get that from Eisenberg.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
In defense, I'm kind of along the same lines with you. I think Jesse Eisenberg is irritating.
Yeah.
Every scene that he's in. But
every movie. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be a huge fan of them.
Zombieland with the exception.
Which
Zombieland would be an exception.
Yeah, he's good in that.
Yeah.
But in defense of him in Batman versus Superman, he's kind of the antithesis of the two other characters. He's a little weedy guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like the little weedy guy that got beaten up by characters like Bruce Wayne at school. So the fact that he is this little skinny, I agree with you 100%. If I ever see Jesse Eisenberg in the big green suit, I'm going to laugh my ass off.
Yeah.
But
that's a fair point, though, that he's completely opposite to the two lads. Yeah.
He's like, if we had another big imposing guy, that would just be, I'm big imposing guy. I'm going to go up against the other two big imposing guys. And then I'm going to make an alien that's an even bigger imposing guy. Whereas the fact that he's a little skinny,
he's a complete counterbalance. Like you don't need strength, you don't need power, you don't need superpowers to go toe to toe.
His brain is his superpower. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still think they could have got someone better than Eisenberg to do that
100%,
because
100%.
Eisenberg comes across as a hipster. You know, comes across, you know, even when he's the scene where they're at the library when Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent meet for the first time, and he's rambling on with something on the stage. You're just kind of going, you're a twat. Like you just you just don't get a sense of sneakiness and you know, there's stuff going on here in the background. He's plotting. You don't get that for me anyway from Eisenberg. I think they could have picked a better actor to sell that.
I'm trying to think of his name. He's the actor that's actually playing the Riddler in the Batman.
Oh, the dude from like There Will Be Blood and Actually, perfect. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Because he's actually quite tall. Paul Dano's his name. Like he's quite tall and like broad, so could get away with him. I think he would have been
like being the mind over the brawl, you know. But
exactly.
that's perfectly that would have been amazing to watch. But it was being the mind and then being a bumbling idiot that just got me, man. It just and even when watching the movie the other day as well, it was every time he come on screen, I was kind of going, you know, it was just like no, just wasn't for me. I think Zack got that one wrong, absolutely.
If you could improve anything then on quickly on Batman versus Superman, what would you kind of pick?
I think I've already said it. My biggest problem, like I can let Jesse Eisenberg away with it because he's playing that, like they brought him in because they wanted someone to play the role that Jesse Eisenberg has played in several other movies before it. My biggest thing is kind of, it's every time I see Doomsday, I'm just like, you really missed the chance,
an opportunity
to make us like fear that big CGI monster instead of it's a troll from Lord of the Rings. Like that's literally all that's going through my head.
Stick a wizard or a wand up his nose, you know, type of thing.
Yeah, it's a really big, like the fact that it also is a bit of a disservice to Michael Shannon, who is like, that's who they create.
This version of Doomsday from.
His Doomsday should have been a reflection of Zod in the Man of Steel movie, where you were genuinely in fear of the planet because of that character, whereas he was just a big dumb green
plot device.
I smash everything.
if you had to like, Joey, if you had to kind of, and I probably know this answer already, Batman versus Superman versus Man of Steel, what do you think that you could even compare the two together, as in what's kind of, black and white, what's better? Or do you think they're too different to kind of compare to see what is best and what is...
I think they mold into each other really well. I think another criticism of Batman vs Superman is they shaft Superman a little bit in it for the storyline. It's a little bit more about Batman.
Yeah.
And in the Ultimate Cut, you see Clark Kent doing a little bit more journalism and be doing, investigating, and that does that really well. And then particularly, I think to answer your question, I think if they had released the Unlimited Cut, you would have seen the two movies mold together really, a lot more fluid and a lot better. When you particularly at the scene at the courthouse, where we see the explosion going off and then Superman just flies away. Whereas in the Ultimate Cut, he's pulling people out of the building. We're seeing him doing Superman stuff, and it's not just, oh crap and I'm gone. Whereas
see ya.
yeah. Whereas in the cut they show, it's not my fault, my bad. I didn't see the bomb. Which when I remember watching that in the cinema, I was kind of going, oh, would he really fly away? But they explain that then in the cut. So I do think the cut would have given
I do think
made that
the
a lot
did
better.
A lot more better to service the characters a little bit better.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think Snyder always wanted to do, I get the vibe off Batman versus Superman as Snyder always wanted to do a Batman movie. And Superman was his way in. Even though he claimed Superman would be his favorite character, I think he really wanted to do a Batman movie. And Batman versus Superman is a little bit more about Batman, in my opinion, than it is about Superman. Up until the last third, anyway. But Man of Steel is a more superior movie, in my opinion. I do love Batman versus Superman, and I will defend it till my dying breath. But if I was to pick one of the two, I'd always pick Man of Steel. I just think it's a little bit more pure. It feels there's a lot more character in it, whereas Batman vs Superman is an action movie.
It's a thriller. Gary, what's your kind of take on that before we kind of move on to the next topic?
I kind of, to be honest with you, I always consider those two movies as a double feature. I don't really think of them as one before the other. But gun to head, I would probably take Man of Steel over Batman versus Superman. It's a bit more
lighter, palatable.
It's a bit
human.
It means a bit more.
Yeah.
Like you can watch that movie and like see things happening throughout the movie. It has an arc, whereas the Batman versus Superman is like, how quickly can we get Batman fighting Superman without kind of going straight to it?
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing for people that don't really know much about Lex Luthor or anything like that. Like, as I said, even for me, it took a second viewing before it clicked that he knew who everyone was from the get-go. That's another thing we should talk about, actually. How did everyone feel about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman?
Amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing.
Completely embodies the character.
Nothing to do with how she looks. She's a beautiful looking woman, right? Don't get me wrong, but like, she's brilliant. And you see how much she is shafted in Wonder Woman 84 when they tried to sexualize her. It's just she just loses everything that she's built up in Batman vs Superman and the First Wonder Woman, which to me is just an unbelievable superhero movie.
I was up till 5 o'clock this morning because when I finished watching Batman versus Superman, it made me want to watch Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
because that scene where she arrives down and starts helping Superman and Batman, and that guitar lick kicks in.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my god, I need to watch Wonder Woman now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can't understand how. I know this is probably it might be controversial, I don't know. How did Patty Jenkins write a worse Wonder Woman than Zack Snyder did?
Because Zack Snyder wrote the first Wonder Woman with Patty Jackson, and then she wrote it with your man, John Goff, the dude that's over. Jeff, he wrote Wonder Woman too. And he's all about being, I hate using the word, but he's all about being woke. He's all about, making things light. It's the same. And he essentially ruined a really brilliant character. And I know if Emmett watches this, he loves Wonder Woman 84. He thought it was deadly. He's rocks in his head, in my opinion. I thought it was
I thought it was.
it doesn't deserve the hate it got, right? It doesn't. If you're watching that as a separate movie from all of the other stuff, you kind of go, oh yeah, that was fun. It was, it was light.
It's okay.
It was popcorny. There was never a sense of danger. Whereas Wonder Woman 1 is just phenomenal.
It's a real action film.
Like it's an Oscar nominated movie. Yeah, it's I wouldn't have been annoyed if that won an Oscar. I was saying about Logan, it came out around the same time, and it was just fantastic storytelling, which was lost for the Marvel kind of style of a movie, which Wonder Woman 84 was.
Yeah.
Moving on now. Obviously, next week's a big week.
Yes.
Hopefully, there's some people can see a bit of redemption in the horizon.
I hope.
I'm going to start with Gary. Gary, what are you most excited for this new cut coming out for the Justice League next week?
More. I'm looking forward to more. To be honest with you, I'm looking forward to not coming away trying to convince myself that the Joss cut, it's a lighthearted Saturday morning cartoon put on film, which is how I kind of excused the Joss. So I'm looking forward to it being dark. I'm looking forward to getting to spend more time with the other members of the Justice League before they become the Justice League. Like, I'm looking forward to more Flash, more Cyborg, more Aquaman. I know Aquaman's got his own movie and everything like that, but it's kind of a separate entity. I'm dying to see what they do with Darkseid. I don't think Steppenwolf was anywhere near as big a threat in the Joss cut as he should have been. So seeing him just be Darkseid's lackey now in the Snyder cut, I'm looking forward to it all, basically.
Brilliant. Joey?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think people know that I'm really like this. Probably I'm gutted I'm not seeing it in the cinema. But I've not looked forward to a movie like this in for as long as I can remember. I think maybe when I heard Captain America was coming out, I got really excited because I'm a big Captain America fan, where I was excited about that. But this, I can't just wait to see Snyder's arc. I see Snyder's trilogy in what he envisioned it to be. Because when I watched the Justice League last night, and man alive, I was like you, Gary. I went to the cinema seeing it, and I came out and I was like, it was all right, wasn't it? They made Superman tell some jokes and Batman crack some jokes. They tried. But when you look at it, knowing what's coming, you're kind of going, oh man, they butchered characters. They made the Flash look like a bumbling idiot, like he trips over himself all the time. It's just not the Flash, whereas I'm really excited to see him, his story grow from Snyder's cut to being Flash was always wishy, but he was powerful, and he had force behind him, where the Justice League cut doesn't do that. They just make him talk about brunch and he falls on Gal Gadot's boobs and stuff, which if that's what you want, we've seen that in the Marvel movies, and nobody really criticizes or would criticize it, because that's what we expect. But that wasn't in any of Snyder's movies. When we seen Wonder Woman for the first time, you didn't look at her and go, "Oh, she's hot." Well, you did, but you didn't think, you were looking at her as to say, "Jesus, she's class as a warrior." She comes in and she holds her own with the two of probably the most iconic superheroes in the world.
Can we just say, like, Gal Gadot as her separate entity is amazing, but I think you're just after hitting on something there. She holds herself to, like, she can stand side by side to Cavill and Affleck and go, oh yeah, I've like, do you think you're anything special? Do you know what I mean? Like, she absolutely holds herself towards those side by side between.
And I love that Snyder puts her front and center with the two, whereas I'm all for female characters getting their moment when it's done, where they're getting their moment, not where it's forced, where we've seen in other movies. I think The Mandalorian does that really, really well as well. It gives, they're not giving a woman a moment just because it's a woman. They're giving it because they deserve it and deserving of the moment, and the characters wrote really, really well. And I think Snyder does that excellent with the Trinity, and he lets her lead the line in one scene where she's in front and the two of them are behind. I think it's just brilliant to watch. And And I hope to see more of that in the cut. I really do. I hope to see more of Wonder Woman being Wonder Woman. I can't wait to see what Cyborg is like. I know he was chopped out of a lot of the last movie, so I can't wait to see what, like, all of the hype and the controversy, what he's bringing on to Warner Brothers about, charges of racism, all the accusations of racism, all this on the set. I'm very interested to see how his arc is told on the screen, to see, if it links up to what he's been telling us for the last year.
Completely agree.
Which I will digest on second watch. I'm not going to be thinking about that when I'm watching it the first time. I'm just going to, I just can't wait to watch a 4-hour superhero movie,
Where can we, like, for us, like, again, is it going to be like on Google,
it's on movies? Sky. Yeah, it's on Sky.
Is there anywhere like pay-per-view, like Google Movies or Apple TV?
Now TV is the one that has it. Now TV.
Really?
Yeah.
So you have to get Now TV.
You can get a week's trial.
Yeah.
Now TV. So
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, so you just get through that then?
Yeah.
Oh,
brilliant. The only thing I'd worry about Now TV is the stream doesn't be great sometimes.
Really?
And I think it drops off a really low frame as well. Whereas thankfully it's on HD on Sky. So they're showing on the HD channel on Sky. But I think they're the only two places you can get it at the moment. And they are releasing a Blu-ray version then in a couple of weeks as well.
Brilliant. Well, that's it, folks. We have gone through 2 films, and definitely, I love the fact that we have completely different opposing points, and then some very, very similar points. It has been fun chatting about these films, and also kind of reliving those moments as well, and especially with a lot of people who haven't kind of watched these films, mainly because of how bad the Justice League film was. It hopefully, like, for me, what I'm looking forward to it is, again, what Gary said, is more story arc, more like justice to the characters, and what Zack had been kind of setting up for so long. Like, I think he deserves this, and especially after all the personal issues that he went through, it is the right thing that he got an opportunity to finish the movie that he deservedly so should have had several years ago. Like, so I'm really excited, and I'm just excited to see more Batman, more everyone, and just see how different the film is gonna turn out. Like,
I'm really looking forward to the banter. I don't think any movie has like Batman versus Superman hasn't brought any there hasn't been a more controversial movie where people have split down the middle, in my opinion, than Batman versus Superman. I can't wait to have that chat about Justice League with people. I really hope people give it a chance and watch it, and not just hate and saying, I hate Zack Snyder, so I'm going to hate this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking directly to a few of you, saying, you know who you are. Like, they're going to go in there hating it before they watch it. Give it a chance, watch it.
Absolutely.
And see, and then I can't wait to have them kind of banter around it. It might take me a week to digest it. A couple of watches, a couple of viewings. But I'm excited. I can't wait.
Joy, listen, and Gary, thanks a million. Getting the band back together feels kind of good. It feels great, and I'm really, really looking forward to just to kind of, for anyone who's watching this especially at the end, and has stuck through all of us to kind of talking through this. We have a good few episodes lined up for the next couple of months, and we genuinely can't wait to kind of show us just literally what's ahead of us and what we're going to be talking about. So again, thanks a million if you've watched it to this here point. If you have any comments, just leave them down below, and
tag me. Let's have it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Joyce is all up for the fight.
Yeah, let's bring it back. Yeah, let's bring that. Let's go. I can't wait.
Guys, listen, thanks a million again, and we'll see you hopefully for another episode discussing the Zack Snyder's cut. All right. See you in the next one, folks. Bye.
Best of luck, lads.
Take it easy. Cheers.